In this video, I want to talk about whether assistant professors get raises, and I'm going to give you some suggestions in terms of what happens with raises during the process. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Maslach. I'm an Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I wanted to pay the favor for to help you out as much as I possibly can. So assistant professors do get raises, but they're not as much as you think that they would be, but there's different ways that you sort of get them. And they come in different sort of forms and right. So the first kind of raise that you get as an assistant professor, so I've gone through all of these kind of things, and this is sort of what happened to me, so hopefully this will help you out. Is that there is performance raises that are one-time based, often at institutions, that are based on your performance, whatever that looks like at your institution, whether it's based on teaching or mostly it's research most of the time, how many publications you have. And you do get raises. It's not a lot. That's really tiny in terms of the performance raises that you actually get. In fact, it's the sort of smallest portion of anybody's salary. The next thing is inflation or market correction raises. So what ends up happening a lot, because a lot of universities are government funded somehow, that they don't do a lot of raises typically. But if there is in the marketplace, if other institutions, comparable institutions, are paying much higher for the same position, then sometimes there's negotiation that happens that you can get market corrections. I think that happened to me once in terms of a market correction, and that's usually done sort of at the university level where there's some sort of market correction or inflation correction that happens. Now, there is the third kind. I think this is the most the standard way to get raises. Now, I have not done this, but I know a lot of people that do this. In fact, it's probably the biggest predictor in terms of the raises that you're going to get, and your salary performance that you're going to get. And that is if you move or negotiate by getting a different position someplace, and sometimes you come back to the same institution with a different position, an offer, a job offer from a different place. And then you might get a raise from that. It's well known that people do that kind of stuff. And in fact, that's how you play the game. I typically don't do that as much as I should. So personally, I don't do that as much as I should. And I know I should be doing this a lot more in terms of moving and negotiating and stuff. But what you end up having to do is to apply to different places, and then you will get an offer from someplace, and then you go to your dean, and then you might get a raise based on that. But here's the thing: when you're doing that, is that you are using up a little bit of social capital when you're doing that. That's why I don't tend to do it as much as I should, and I know I should. I should be a lot more selfish. Honestly, I really should. And what you should be doing is you might use up social capital of that other institution that you apply to. Just remember, if you don't choose to go there, you're probably not going to go there for a while after that. And then, you might lose up social capital with the dean at your institution, because they just kind of get annoyed after a while, and they might just say, see you later. And so you have to be well aware that the dean at your institution might just simply say, we can't match that. Or, fine, go to that institution, that's totally fine. So it's a little bit of hardball, but it's also part of the game. And a lot of people do this. This is super common to do this kind of negotiation stuff. You actually see a lot of people moving from institutions to get better offers. But another thing that you can worry about, and I think that this is where you might be able to get a little bit more resources, rather than wages, because wages are a little tough because there's a lot of pressure on them from governments to keep those wages down. Sorry, I got something in my throat. Keep those wages down. And so they're always, looking for ways to keep those wages down, because they think, government employees should always not get paid as much as in industry, which makes no sense to me, because it creates an adverse selection problem. But what do I know? And so adverse selection is where you end up selecting worse people than you would get if you were paying the same salaries at someplace else. That's a big reason why CEOs get paid so much, is because they can go in the marketplace and get paid a lot more at a different place, and so they end up getting that, right? So, what ends up happening is then you have to look for other ways. So if you can't get salary increases in that sort of way, you might be able to get different ways that are valuable for you, or different sort of ways to improve your financial or resource positions, really more resources than financial positions. So, might be things like asking for reduced teaching load, getting sabbaticals, research budget, increasing your research budget, although that's probably not going to happen, again, because they're looking for that sort of financial thing. But the teaching load, I think, is very much doable if you can negotiate for that. And the sabbatical, it's not going to happen before you're tenured, but once you're tenured, you might be able to get a sabbatical at the different institutions. Now, this varies a lot across different institutions in terms of what they can do. So just have that in mind. So, what I would do is, getting these raises and stuff like that is trickier than what you think it is. But also, I think, don't follow my footsteps here. And I think you have to be a little bit more aggressive than what I would ever be. I just don't feel comfortable doing those kind of things, and I really should work on this. Personally, this is something I really, really should work on. And so really be proactive in your life, and take charge. And especially if you're from an underrepresented group, or, you're, somebody from that is not sort of typical, just know that there is uphill battles that you're going to have to fight. And so you have to be a lot more proactive than somebody else from more of a sort of majority group in a particular organization. So with that, give me a thumbs up, to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Take care and have a wonderful day.